Welcome to ADIRE Stories, from ancient African myths to modern mysteries. So sit back, relax, let's journey together through the magic of storytelling. Don't forget to subscribe. In the heart of Kumasi, where the city's gold dust shimmered through the evening haze, Alma Asabia walked like she owned the ground beneath her heels. People didn't just see her, they felt her presence. Heads turned, whispers followed, and men stumbled over their words trying to impress her. Alma loved it. Attention was her oxygen, admiration her daily bread. But behind that flawless face, behind the silk dresses and polished laughter, burned something darker, a hunger that no amount of validation could satisfy. Alma was beautiful, yes. But her beauty was both gift and curse. It had carried her into rooms she never deserved to enter and out of homes she'd helped destroy. She didn't merely flirt with married men, she hunted them. It was a game, one she played better than anyone else. She loved the thrill of it, the chase, the temptation, the power of watching a man crumble under her gaze. And when his wife found out and wept, that was the encore. Alma told herself it wasn't cruelty, it was justice. Life had wronged her once, and this was her way of reclaiming control. When she was 22, her boyfriend of 3 years left her for a richer woman. She had loved him deeply, sacrificed everything, only for him to marry someone else within weeks. The heartbreak nearly broke her spirit. She'd vowed that day, no man would ever have the power to break me again. From then on, she became the breaker. Yet, amid that darkness, there was one person who still saw the light in her, Zainabu. Zainabu was the kind of woman who could calm a storm just by walking into the room. A nurse at Komfo Anakai Hospital, she lived a simple life, always smiling, always giving. Where Alma was all fire, Zainabu was cool water. They had grown up together in the same dusty neighborhood, shared the same childhood dreams, and even sold plantain chips by the roadside together after school. When Alma's father died and her mother fell ill, it was Zainabu's family that took her in. Years later, when Alma's heartbreak left her homeless and hollow, it was again Zainabu who gave her a room to sleep in and a warm plate of rice to eat. She would braid Alma's hair, talk her through her pain, and remind her that love wasn't evil, that she'd find peace one day. Zainabu meant every word. But to Alma, those gentle reassurances started to sound like pity. How can she be so happy with so little? Alma would think whenever she saw Zainabu's quiet smile. Her friend didn't have fancy clothes, didn't wear wigs or designer perfumes, yet people respected her. Men admired her. And worse, Zainabu had something Alma secretly craved: peace. By 30, Zainabu had everything Alma pretended not to want. A stable job, 2 kids, and a husband who treated her like treasure. Alma would visit on weekends, watching them laugh over dinner, their love effortless and real. She'd smile and play with the children, but every laugh echoed like thunder inside her. "Obinna, you're so lucky," Alma once said during a family dinner, swirling her wine glass. Obinna laughed. "No, I'm blessed. Your friend here is my peace." Zainabu blushed, and Alma forced a smile. Inside, something twisted. Peace. That word again. Peace was what she'd lost long ago, and now her best friend had it all. Later that night, as Alma watched the couple clean the dishes side by side, she felt an unfamiliar ache. Not love. Envy. Sharp, poisonous envy. The city of Kumasi had many faces at night. The traders, the hustlers, the lovers, but Alma's reflection in her mirror was the only one that frightened her. Her mascara-streaked eyes whispered, "You could have that too." The thought was small at first, almost absurd. But it grew. Like a flame. She started imagining it, Obinna's laughter directed at her, his arms around her waist, his voice saying her name instead of Zainabu's. Each time she visited their home, she stayed a little longer, helped with the children more, cooked meals and praised his work. When he talked about his business, she listened with intensity, touching his arm lightly as she laughed. To anyone else, it looked harmless. To Alma, it was strategy. Obinna was kind, charming, and loyal. The kind of man who still opened doors and prayed before meals. Alma told herself she just admired him, but admiration turned into obsession before she could stop it. Her nights became restless. She'd lie awake imagining Zainabu's life. The love, the laughter, the security. It was too much to bear. "Why her?" she whispered one night, staring at the ceiling. "Why not me?" Oma's obsession began to spill over. She started dressing differently whenever she visited. Silk blouses, tight skirts, the kind of perfume that lingered long after she'd left the room. She called Obinna occasionally, asking about construction advice she didn't need. "You're so smart," she'd say in her softest tone. Obinna would laugh politely, unaware of the trap forming around him. Zainabu noticed the change. She noticed everything. The laughter that lingered too long, the glances that flickered across the table. But she brushed it off, because this was Oma, her sister in all but blood. The one she'd loved and defended all her life. One Sunday, as they all sat together after church, Oma watched as Obinna placed his arm around Zainabu, whispering something that made her giggle. That simple act ignited something feral in her. It wasn't just jealousy anymore, it was resentment. She smiled, hiding the storm behind her perfect teeth. "You two make marriage look easy," she said sweetly. Zainabu laughed. "It's not easy, my dear. But when you love right, it feels light." That word again, love. Oma felt the word slice through her chest like a knife. Love had never been light for her. It had been heavy, cruel, and punishing. If Zainabu's love was light, Oma would drag it into the darkness just to prove the world wrong. That night, she stared at her reflection again, lipstick half smudged, eyes blazing. "You've been the helper for too long," she whispered. "Now it's your turn to be the wife." And just like that, Oma Asabia made a silent vow under the Kumosi moonlight. Zainabu's husband would be hers. What she didn't know was that this single decision would light a fire that would consume everything she loved, everything she once was, and everything she could ever be. Obinna Nwachukwu was the kind of man who made people believe love still existed. In a city where fidelity had become a joke and loyalty a myth, he was proof that some men still kept their vows. Every morning, he kissed his wife Zainabu before stepping out, and every evening, he returned home no matter how late, carrying something small, a snack for the kids, flowers for her, or just his smile. Their marriage was not loud, not boastful. It was the quiet kind of love, the kind that hummed like a favorite song playing softly in the background. Neighbors admired them. Church friends called them the example. Even strangers could feel it when they walked side by side. But Oma Asabia didn't see love when she looked at them. She saw unfairness. From her balcony across the street, Oma often watched Zainabu and Obinna drive out together, laughing like lovers in their honeymoon phase. Sometimes, she would see Zainabu wave at her, cheerful and unsuspecting, and Oma would wave back with a smile so warm it burned. But once the car disappeared, that smile twisted into bitterness. In Oma's world, good men like Obinna didn't exist anymore, at least not for women like her. Every man she'd ever loved had left her for someone more decent. Someone who cooked, prayed, and wore modest dresses. She had come to believe that love only rewarded the ordinary. And Zainabu? She was the queen of ordinary. Plain hairstyles. Simple makeup. Modest skirts. Always home by 8 p.m. Oma couldn't understand it. How could such simplicity attract such devotion? The answer, of course, was Zainabu's heart, a truth Oma refused to see. She began to visit more often. What started as weekly check-ins became near-daily drop-ins. "I was just in the area," she'd say, her laughter honey-sweet, her perfume expensive and heady. She played with the children, helped Zainabu cook, and chatted easily with Obinna about his business. She made herself useful. At first, Zainabu welcomed it. Oma was her sister in spirit, her friend of decades. She saw it as love and support. But Oma was studying, observing, calculating. She noticed how Obinna's eyes softened whenever Zainabu spoke. She noticed his patience, his warmth, his way of making everyone feel safe. The more she saw, the more she wanted. Oma began her quiet invasion with small gestures. When Zainabu's birthday came, she bought her a dress, and then bought Obinna a designer watch. "You're like my brother," she told him, her eyes shining. "You deserve something fine too." Obinna smiled, surprised but grateful. Zainabu didn't think much of it. Alma had always been generous. But Obinna began to notice something too, Alma's presence. Her laughter was a little too loud, her touches too casual, her compliments too frequent. When he cracked a joke, she laughed longer than necessary. When their hands brushed, hers lingered just a second too long. He didn't think much of it at first. He was polite, maybe too polite. Then came the phone calls. At first, they were innocent enough. "Obinna, please, I need advice. My landlord is stressing me again." Or, "You know about construction, right? What kind of tiles do you recommend?" He answered with kindness. He had known Alma for years, and she was Zainabu's closest friend. But slowly, the calls became more personal. "You're such a good man," she'd say in a low tone. "Zainabu is lucky." Sometimes she would sigh softly. "If only all men were like you." Obinna laughed awkwardly, brushing it off. "Alma, don't flatter me. I'm just trying my best." But Alma wasn't laughing. Each call planted a seed. Each smile was bait. She was patient. Predators always are. Zainabu, meanwhile, began to feel a chill she couldn't name. She trusted Alma with her life, yet something felt off. It was the way Alma looked at Obinna when she thought no one was watching. The way she dressed differently when she came over. Satin tops, bold lipstick, high heels that clicked too loudly on the tiled floor. Once, while clearing the dining table, Zainabu caught Alma watching Obinna as he bent to pick up a dropped spoon. Her gaze lingered too long. Zainabu felt her stomach twist. Later that night she told Obinna, "You've noticed Alma's been different lately?" He frowned, surprised. "Different? How?" "I don't know," Zainabu admitted, forcing a smile. "Maybe it's just me." Obinna shrugged, dismissing it. "Alma's just being Alma. You know how she is. Dramatic, full of life." Zainabu nodded, but something inside her remained unsettled. Alma, on the other hand, had no such doubts. Her mind was set. She wanted what Zainabu had, and in her twisted logic, she convinced herself she deserved it. "She took him first," Alma whispered to her reflection one night. "But he and we're more alike. He'll see it soon." The next week, she found her excuse. Zainabu had a night shift at the hospital, and Alma offered to help Obinna watch the kids. "You shouldn't be alone," she said sweetly. "I'll bring food." Obinna thanked her, unsuspecting. That night, Alma cooked his favorite meal, spicy jollof with fried fish. They ate together, chatting easily. The children played in the living room while Alma poured him a drink. She leaned closer than she needed to, her perfume strong, her smile practiced. "You work too hard," she said softly. "Zainabu is lucky to have you." Obinna chuckled. "We're both lucky." Alma tilted her head, eyes locked on his. "Are you sure?" The air thickened. He laughed it off, awkwardly changing the subject, but Alma saw it, a flicker of discomfort, the awareness of something dangerous between them. When Zainabu returned home the next morning, Alma was gone, but her scent still lingered. The dining table was cleared, the kids asleep, and Obinna was distant. He said nothing, but Zainabu's intuition screamed louder than words. A week later, while doing laundry, she noticed a faint trace of perfume on Obinna's shirt, a scent she knew too well. Alma's. Her heart froze. She told herself it was nothing. She told herself she trusted them both. But trust, once cracked, never fully heals. That evening, she smiled through dinner, laughing when Obinna joked, but her eyes darted between them. The tension hung invisible yet heavy. Alma had lit a match. And though no one saw it yet, the first flames were beginning to crawl quietly beneath the surface, ready to consume everything in their path. Alma Asabiah had mastered the art of pretending. To the world, she was Zainabu's devoted sister friend, helpful, loyal, and harmless. But behind her smile was a mind that plotted in silence, weaving lies into opportunities and kindness into weapons. She had decided, Obinna would be hers. It began with time. The more time she spent around him, the more natural it seemed. She volunteered to help with the kids when Zainabu worked late shifts at the hospital. She'd cook dinner, tidy up, and wait for Obinna to return. The house would be spotless, soft music playing, her perfume faint but deliberate. "Wow, Oma, you've outdone yourself again," Obinna would say, setting his briefcase down. She'd smile innocently. "I just didn't want you to come home to an empty house. You work too hard, Obinna." He'd thank her politely, unaware that every thank you was another hook tightening around him. Oma played her role with surgical precision. She didn't rush. She was patient. She knew that men like Obinna didn't fall through seduction alone, they fell through trust. Soon, her voice became familiar in his daily rhythm. She'd call in the afternoons to check in, her tone light but her words intimate. "How's your day going, Mr. Builder? Did you eat? You always forget to eat. Don't stress too much, you're not Superman, you know." Each message was another drop of poison sweetly disguised as care. At first, Obinna laughed them off. But over time, her calls became part of his day. It felt harmless, until one night when her message came differently. "If only she knew what we share." He frowned, rereading it. "What they shared." He typed back, "Oma, what do you mean?" But she didn't reply. The next morning when he saw her at church, she winked playfully and whispered, "Just teasing." He laughed awkwardly, dismissing it, but something about the way her eyes lingered made him uneasy. Oma was growing bolder. She started wearing more revealing clothes when she visited. Silk dresses that clung to her body. Red lipstick that left faint marks on her water glass. Her laughter, once innocent, now carried a challenge. When she hugged Obinna, it lingered, just long enough for him to notice. "Zainabu, are you sure you're comfortable with Oma being around so much?" one of their church friends asked quietly one day. Zainabu smiled. Oma's family. She wouldn't cross that line. But deep down, a small voice whispered otherwise. Still, Zainabu silenced it. Her heart refused to believe that her sister friend, the woman she'd once fed when she was starving, clothed when she was broken, could betray her. Oma knew this. And she used it. One evening, Zainabu was stuck in a long hospital shift. Oma arrived at their home, to help. She wore a red wrap dress and carried a tray of pepper soup. The kids were asleep, the air heavy with rain and music from the radio. Obinna thanked her and went to shower. When he came out, Oma was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, the glow from the lamp casting golden shadows on her skin. "You're too kind, Oma," he said, taking a seat opposite her. She smiled. "I just care about you, Obinna." He chuckled nervously. "You care about everyone." She tilted her head, eyes locking onto his. "Not like this." Silence. Her words hung in the air like a confession. Obinna's smile faded. "Oma, stop. Don't do that." She stood, moving closer. "Why fight it? You feel it too. Don't lie to yourself." He stepped back. "You're my wife's best friend. This is wrong." Oma laughed softly, bitterly. "Wrong? Or tempting?" Obinna's jaw tightened. "Enough. Go home, Oma." For the first time, she saw anger in his eyes, and it thrilled her. Because anger was still attention. It meant she had power. That night, Obinna told Zainabu what happened. "Oma crossed a line," he said quietly. "I think she's confused." Zainabu's eyes widened. "Oma? No. She wouldn't." "She would," he interrupted. "And she did." Zainabu didn't know what to think. The woman who had once slept beside her in their childhood bed now had her husband's name tangled in her schemes. But when Oma called the next morning, her voice was calm, cheerful, guiltless. "I dropped some mangoes for the kids. Did Obinna tell you I cooked for him yesterday? He looked so tired. Zainabu's hands trembled. Yes. He told me. Omar laughed. Good. You're lucky to have him, you know. That laughter, light, confident, poisonous, echoed in Zainabu's ears long after the call ended. Days passed, and Zainabu tried to hold her peace. But Omar kept coming, kept calling, kept pushing. And though Obinna avoided her now, Omar only grew more reckless. When he ignored her calls, she sent voice notes. You can't pretend forever. She doesn't understand you like I do. One day, you'll realize we were meant to be. Obinna deleted them all, terrified of what Zainabu might see. He blocked her number, but Omar always found another way. New numbers, different excuses, even fake business calls. The final straw came one night when Zainabu accidentally picked up Obinna's phone while he was bathing. A message popped up. The sender. Omar. If only she knew what we shared. You should have been mine. The phone nearly slipped from Zainabu's hand. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred. She felt as though someone had driven a knife through her heart. She waited in silence for Obinna to emerge, holding the phone out. Who is this? When he saw the message, his face drained of color. It's not what you think. Zainabu's voice trembled. Then tell me what I should think. He took her hands, desperate. I never touched her. I swear to you. She's been trying for months, but I never. Tears welled in her eyes. And you never told me? I didn't want to hurt you. I thought she'd stop. But Omar didn't stop. That night, Zainabu packed her bags. She didn't scream. She didn't curse. She simply gathered her children, left her wedding ring on the dresser, and walked out. Omar had won, or so she thought. The next morning, Obinna went to confront her, fury burning through him. You've destroyed my marriage, he shouted. Omar stood by her window, smirking faintly. No, Obinna. She destroyed it by leaving. He stared at her, disgust replacing every trace of pity. You need help. Omar's laughter followed him down the hall, echoing like a curse. But when Zainabu went public, sharing screenshots, messages, and recordings, Omar's laughter died. Within hours, Homewrecker Exposed trended across Ghana. Her face was everywhere. Every whisper she'd ever ignored now screamed her name. And for the first time, Omar Asabiah realized the fire she danced with was finally consuming her. When Zainabu walked out of her home that night, she didn't slam the door. She didn't shout or weep or beg for understanding. She simply closed it, quietly, deliberately, and in that silence was more power than 1,000 curses. Her heart was breaking, yes, but her dignity stayed intact. She had given love everything. And now she was done. Obinna stood frozen in the hallway, holding her wedding ring in his trembling palm. The faint scent of her perfume still lingered in the air, mixed with the tears of a man who had just watched his life crumble. He had done nothing, but he had also done too little. His silence, his politeness, his refusal to confront the storm had allowed the fire to spread. When he finally found his voice, it was too late. Zainabu was gone. Omar Asabiah, on the other hand, woke up that morning with a smug smile. She had dreamt of Obinna again, of him choosing her, holding her, forgiving her for the chaos she had caused. She believed, foolishly, that her plan had worked. That with Zainabu gone, she would finally have her chance. But fate was already sharpening its claws. The first blow came from Zainabu herself. She didn't retreat into shame or sorrow. No. She turned her pain into a weapon. With a calm that terrified even her closest friends, she gathered every piece of evidence, screenshots of messages, voice notes, call logs, and posted them online with a single caption. The friend who tried to destroy my home. It took less than an hour for the story to explode. By noon, Twitter was on fire. By evening, TikTok was flooded with duets, reactions, and dramatic reenactments. Hashtags trended, #HomewreckerExposed, Hashtag karma is real. Hashtag betrayal in Kumasi. Oma's pictures spread like wildfire. Her carefully curated Instagram selfies, her expensive dresses, her famous smile, all now accompanied by captions dripping with hate. She's the one. One post read. This woman tried to ruin her best friend's marriage, said another. She was my friend too, and she did the same thing to me, wrote a third. Oma's world began to crumble in real time. At first, she tried to ignore it. She told herself it would blow over in a few days. But then clients stopped calling. Her boutique's social media pages were flooded with insults. Shameless witch. May karma find you. You destroy families for fun? Even her own family turned against her. Her mother, humiliated by the scandal, refused to pick her calls. You've brought disgrace to our name, her elder brother texted. Don't come to the house. For the first time, Oma felt fear. Meanwhile, Zainabu's calm refusal to engage in drama made her even more admired. Women across Ghana called her strong. Influencers made videos praising her grace. She didn't fight her in the mud, one said. She let karma do the talking. Obinna, shattered by guilt, tried to reach Zainabu countless times. His calls went unanswered. His messages remained on read. He posted an apology on Facebook. To the woman who gave me her heart and to the friend who betrayed it, I am sorry for the silence that caused pain. I never strayed, but I should have spoken sooner. Some people believed him. Others didn't care. The internet had already chosen its villain, and that villain's name was Oma Asabia. By the second week, the hate grew darker. Death threats slid into her inbox. Strangers sent messages describing how she should burn in hell. People who once adored her now avoided her in public. At the market, women whispered behind her back. Children pointed. Auntie, isn't that the home wrecker? She stopped going out. She stopped eating. The mirror became her enemy. The same face that once turned heads now stared back at her hollow and trembling. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, notification after notification, each one another wound. Someone had dug up old photos of her with married men. Old rumors resurfaced. It was as though the entire city had been waiting for this moment, to tear her apart piece by piece. Oma tried to fight back. She posted a video online, makeup smeared, voice shaking. I'm not the monster you think I am. People are lying about me. I never touched him. But her tears only fueled the fire. The comments poured in like acid. Look at her acting. Witch, go cry in hell. She's sorry because she got caught. No one wanted her truth anymore. The story was already written. Meanwhile, Zainabu focused on rebuilding quietly. She moved into a new apartment with the children, returned to work, and surrounded herself with peace. Her colleagues treated her like a hero. Her patients called her strong woman. Yet at night, when the lights were out, she cried into her pillow. Betrayal doesn't fade easily. It echoes. Obinna kept trying to fix what was broken. He sent gifts, letters, even flowers for her birthday, but Zainabu's walls stayed high. Trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild with apologies. Oma watched all this from the shadows, scrolling through their photos, feeling her chest tighten. She had wanted to win, to prove she was desirable, powerful, untouchable. But all she'd proven was that she could destroy without satisfaction. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the Kumasi skyline, Oma stood on her balcony and stared at the city that once worshipped her. The laughter of neighbors below now sounded like mockery. She thought about calling Zainabu, begging for forgiveness, but the shame was unbearable. Then came the final blow. Her landlord served her an eviction notice. Your presence is bad for business, he said curtly. People are talking. She packed her things that same night. No one came to help. The friends who once filled her house with gossip and wine had vanished. As she dragged her suitcase through the dim streets, a small boy pointed and whispered, "That's the woman from the internet." She quickened her pace, her heels clicking on the pavement like gunshots. When she reached the bus terminal, She bought a one-way ticket to a small town outside Kumasi, a place where no one knew her name. She sat by the window, clutching her handbag, her reflection ghostly in the glass. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. In her mind, she replayed Zainabu's calm voice, the one that used to comfort her through heartbreak. Alma, peace is not found in power. It's found in love. Now, the words felt like prophecy. As the bus pulled away, Alma wiped her tears, whispering to herself, "They can keep their peace. I'll find mine." But even she knew the truth. Peace cannot grow on scorched earth. And behind her, in the city she had once ruled with beauty and charm, the ashes of her old life fluttered in the wind. The town of Obwesai was quieter than Kumasi, smaller, slower, and mercifully indifferent. To Alma Asabia, that anonymity was a blessing. Here, no one whispered her name in the marketplace, no one crossed the street when she passed, no one recognized the woman once trending as #HomewreckerExposed. She rented a small single room behind a provision shop, its cracked walls and leaking roof a far cry from the apartment she'd once decorated with silk curtains and scented candles. Gone were the perfumes, the wigs, the glimmering heels. Her once famous wardrobe had been sold piece by piece to pay rent. The woman who once flaunted luxury now washed clothes by hand in a plastic basin behind the house. Alma had survived the storm, but she was not the same. At night, she often sat by her small window, staring at the moonlight spilling over the red earth. The silence pressed on her like guilt made visible. She thought of Zainabu often, not with envy anymore, but with something far heavier, remorse. Still, Alma couldn't bring herself to reach out. What would she even say? Sorry I tried to ruin your marriage? Sorry for betraying the only person who loved me? The words felt useless now. She'd thought time would erase her name from people's lips, but the internet never forgets. Every few months, someone would stumble upon her story again. A new TikTok, a new YouTube commentary, another hashtag. Where is Alma Asabia now? They'd ask, as if her misery were entertainment. Each time, she'd delete her social media, but it never mattered. The ghosts of her past lived on in pixels and reposts. Meanwhile, Zainabu and Obina's lives had moved forward, but not without pain. Their marriage had cracked, but it had not shattered. After months apart, after countless apologies and counseling sessions, Zainabu allowed him back into her life. Not out of weakness, but for their children. Obina had learned his lesson the hard way. The fire that burned through his home had seared humility into his heart. He worshipped his wife now with quiet devotion, rebuilding brick by brick what his silence had once allowed to fall. Alma heard about them occasionally, through mutual acquaintances. Zainabu's husband is doing well, one woman at the market had said. They even started a foundation for single mothers. Alma smiled weakly, her heart sinking. The people she'd envied were not only surviving, they were thriving. It was a strange kind of punishment, to live long enough to watch your victims heal without you. Still, Alma tried to make a new life. She found work at a small salon, braiding hair for schoolgirls and gossiping with their mothers. Most days she managed to smile. She told herself she'd changed, that she was different now. But guilt has a way of finding cracks to seep through. Sometimes she'd see young wives come in, laughing on the phone with their husbands, and the ache would return. She'd look at their joy and think, I once believed that was my right to destroy. The nights were the worst. Sleep came slow and shallow. The faces of those she'd hurt haunted her dreams. Wives she'd betrayed, friends she'd deceived, men she'd lured. Their tears played like echoes in her mind. One night, the past came knocking, literally. Alma was closing up the salon when a familiar face walked in. Afua, a woman from Kumasi. Alma, she gasped, clutching her bag. You live here. Alma froze. The name she hadn't heard aloud in months sounded strange, almost foreign. Afua, she said softly. Please don't. Afua's expression softened. It's okay. I'm not here to judge. They sat together in silence for a long while. Then Afua said, I saw Zainabu last month. She looked happy. Strong. You should see her children, they've grown. Oma forced a smile. I'm glad she's happy. She forgave you, you know. Oma looked up sharply. What? Afua nodded. She said it once at church. Someone asked about you, and she said, I've forgiven Oma, but I haven't forgotten. God will handle the rest. Oma felt her throat tighten. Forgiveness. The very thing she had convinced herself she didn't deserve. She nodded slowly, blinking back tears. After Afua left, Oma stayed behind, sweeping the empty salon floor, her heart aching with a pain too complicated to name. Forgiveness wasn't freedom, it was a mirror. And in it, she saw herself clearly for the first time. Still, the universe was not done teaching her lessons. Weeks later, a woman arrived at the salon asking for braids. She looked familiar, her accent soft and educated. When Oma turned, her heart stopped. It was Zainabu. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them thickened with unspoken years. Zainabu finally smiled, a calm, distant smile. Hello, Oma. Oma's voice cracked. You came here. I was in town for medical outreach, Zainabu said gently. Someone told me there's a good salon nearby. I didn't realize it was yours until I walked in. Oma's hands shook. I'm sorry, she whispered, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know. I'm sorry for everything. I was lost. Angry. Stupid. Zainabu watched her quietly, her eyes unreadable. Oma, you hurt me more than I can explain. But I learned something from it. That peace doesn't depend on what others do. It depends on what I choose to carry. Oma swallowed hard. And what do you carry now? Peace, Zainabu said simply. The word hit Oma like a wave. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You really forgave me? Zainabu nodded. Forgiveness isn't about you. It's about me. I won't let bitterness chain me to the past. She picked up her bag, pausing at the door. Some debts can't be repaid, Oma. But you can stop borrowing more pain. Then she was gone. Oma stood there long after, staring at the empty doorway, her chest tight. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of every wrong decision, not as punishment, but as truth. That night, she walked home barefoot through the quiet streets, her tears falling freely. The moon above her glowed bright, indifferent, eternal. As she reached her tiny room, she whispered a prayer, one she hadn't said since she was a child. God, I've broken too much. But if there's still a way back, show me. In the stillness, she didn't expect an answer. But somewhere deep inside, for the first time in years, she felt something stir. Not forgiveness. Not redemption. Just beginning. Because karma never forgets. But neither does grace. And for Oma Asabia, the dance with fire had finally ended, not in flames, but in ashes that might one day give birth to light. 3 years later, the streets of Kumasi had changed, but their memory had not. Billboards gleamed brighter, new cafes lined the roads, and laughter spilled from taxis stuck in the evening traffic. But for Oma Asabia, returning to the city felt like walking into a graveyard of her past. She stepped off the bus in a faded black dress, her face hidden beneath a scarf. She had come home not as the radiant beauty who once turned heads, but as a ghost moving through her own history. The air felt heavier here, the kind that carried whispers. Even if people didn't recognize her immediately, she still felt their eyes. Oma had returned for one reason: her mother's funeral. The woman who once scolded her for chasing married men, who cried through her scandal, who eventually disowned her, was gone. The news had come by letter, carried by her younger cousin. Auntie passed peacefully. Burial this weekend. You should come. 4 days, Oma debated whether to show up. But guilt, once ignored, has a way of summoning you home. And so she came. As the trotro rattled through the city she once ruled, memories pressed on her like ghosts. There was the boutique she'd opened, now repainted with another woman's name. The cafe where she'd flirted with Obinna under the pretense of friendship. The church where she'd once stood beside Zainabu in matching lace dresses, singing hymns about grace. Now, she avoided eye contact with everyone. Her heels, cheap ones from the market, clicked softly on the pavement as she walked toward the churchyard. The funeral crowd was already thick. Women in black headscarves fanned themselves against the afternoon heat. Men stood in small groups, murmuring condolences. Alma slipped quietly into the back row, keeping her face down. But even silence has a sound. When one of the women turned and recognized her, the whispers began to ripple. Is that? It can't be. It's her. The one from the videos. Alma froze. Her fingers gripped the edge of the pew. She stared at the coffin at the front, the polished wood, the flowers, the white cloth draped over it. Her mother. The woman she'd disappointed more than anyone. As the pastor began to speak, Alma's eyes blurred. Each word, about forgiveness, about redemption, about leaving behind bitterness, felt like it was meant for her. She bit her lip hard to keep from sobbing. After the service, when people began to leave, she waited. When the crowd thinned, she finally walked up to the coffin. Her hands trembled as she laid down a single white rose. "Mama," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I made you ashamed to be my mother. I broke everything I touched. I hope you can forgive me where others can't." She knelt there for a long time, her tears dripping onto the cold wood. The world around her seemed to fade, the chatter, the shuffling feet, even the distant sound of car horns. For a brief moment, it was just her and her regret. Then she heard a voice behind her. Soft, familiar, steady. "Alma." She turned. Zainabu stood a few feet away, dressed simply in black, her face calm and unreadable. Time had not dimmed her beauty, it had refined it. Her skin glowed with the quiet strength of a woman who had endured and healed. Obinna stood beside her, taller, grayer around the edges, holding the hand of a little girl. For a moment, Alma couldn't breathe. The girl, no more than 6, pointed at Zainabu and tugged her hand. "Mama, that lady looks sad." Zainabu's eyes didn't leave Alma's. "Yes," she said softly. "She's been sad for a long time." Alma tried to smile, but it faltered. "You came," she whispered. "For my mother?" Zainabu nodded. "She was kind to me once. I owed her that." Silence stretched between them. Obinna looked away, uncomfortable, his jaw tight. The child, curious, peeked up at Alma again before being led aside by her father. Alma swallowed hard. I've wanted to say this for years. I know sorry means nothing now, but I am. Truly. For everything. I destroyed my own life trying to ruin yours." Zainabu studied her quietly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were distant, like someone looking through a window at a storm long past. "I forgave you," she said finally. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Some wounds close, but they leave scars that never fade." Alma nodded, her throat tight. "I understand." "No," Zainabu said gently. "You don't. You still think forgiveness is something I give you. It's not. It's what I gave myself, so I could move on." She took a slow step closer, her voice steady. "You see that little girl? That's the piece you tried to steal from me. My daughter calls her father, Super Daddy. We healed. We laughed again. But you," she paused, her gaze soft but unflinching, "you never stopped living in the ashes." Alma's eyes filled. "I've paid, more than anyone knows. Everyone hates me. I can't go anywhere without feeling like a ghost." Zainabu's voice was quiet, almost tender. "Some debts can't be repaid. You just have to live with them." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them pulsed with all the things that could never be undone. Finally, Zainabu stepped back. "Stay where you are, Alma," she said softly. "We've buried the past today. Let's not dig it up again." Alma nodded, tears streaming freely now. I wish I could undo it all. I know, Zainabu said, turning toward her car. But some fires can't be undone. They only teach. Obinna gave a small nod as he passed her, eyes full of pity and restraint. Their daughter waved cheerfully. Bye-bye, Auntie. Oma managed a broken smile and waved weakly back. When they drove off, the dust from the car tires rose around her like a fog. She stood there alone, surrounded by murmuring relatives who didn't dare approach her. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the churchyard. Oma stared at the coffin one last time before walking away, her body heavy, her soul hollow. Each step felt like a sentence. She had once believed that destroying marriages made her powerful, that breaking others somehow proved her worth. But now, she couldn't even step near the home she had shattered. As she reached the gate, she looked back at the church and whispered, "You were right, Z. Some debts are too heavy to repay." The wind carried her words away. That night, Oma returned to her rented room in Obwesai, alone once more. The radio played faint highlife music as she sat on her bed, staring at her reflection in a cracked mirror. Her beauty had faded, her fame had rotted, but her guilt had endured. Still, somewhere deep beneath the ruin, a strange peace flickered. Maybe not forgiveness. Maybe not redemption. But acceptance, the quiet knowledge that she could no longer undo the past, only live with it. Oma Asabia, once the goddess of Kumosi, once the breaker of homes, was now just a woman, unseen, unheard, forgotten. And yet, in that anonymity, perhaps, lay her final punishment. Because the woman who once thrived on destruction now lived in silence. And silence was the only home she had left. The end. Loved the story? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and become part of the ADIRE Stories family. Your support helps us bring more powerful African tales to life. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you soon.